on Internet and Big Data Finance. I'll be presenting on the topic a Big Data Analytical Framework for Portfolio Optimization. This is the flow of my presentation. Initially, I'll be giving a brief introduction on Big Data and its use in capital markets, followed by the gaps identified based on the previous work, and from which we have derived our objective, followed by the framework which we proposed for the particular objective, and the whole thing will be followed by the expected outcomes, conclusion, and the references. We all know that big data has become a buzzword in the recent years. First, let's understand what big data is. Big data refers to the huge amount of data which is being produced by high performance heterogeneous group of applications ranging from social media to scientific computing devices. And the size of the data set range from few hundred gigabytes to zettabytes, and we can say the dimensions of big data are volume, as the name refers. It refers to the amount of data which is being produced, and the velocity refers to the speed at which the data is being generated, and variety refers to apart from structured data, the unstructured data which are being produced, and the unstructured data includes text, log files, video, audio, etc. And the other dimensions are variability, complexity, low value, density. And we all know that big data technology is being used in several fields like marketing, consumer analytics, and everything. And now the big data is being used in capital firms as well. In capital firms, the big data technologies are used mainly for mitigating risk and for high trading analytics like high frequency analytics, data tagging, etc. And one of the next big challenges for capital market is to handle the velocity at which the data is being produced. This is because we have different types of capital market data, which includes the reference data, which tells about the exchange and the ticker symbols, etc. Second is the fundamental data, which refers to the corporate financial report, everything. Followed by the news article. We all know that these days the news affects the stock price and everything, and followed by the social media, from which we can tell about the market sentiment and how the market sentiment affects the stock price. And this slide just gives a brief recap on portfolio optimization. Portfolio is the collection of assets. The assets range from stock, bonds to real estates, etc. And the portfolio optimization is the process of making investment decision on holding a particular set of financial assets to meet various criteria. The two main criteria for portfolio optimization are to minimize risk and to maximize return. And the major steps of portfolio optimization can be classified into three steps, which include asset selection, in which you decide in which all asset you want to invest in, followed by the asset weighing, which says how much amount should be invested in each asset or each stock or each dividend, followed by the asset management. It says whether you need to sell a particular asset or to buy a particular asset. And the scope of the work is only limited to stock analysis, and we have classified the previous work into 4 different themes. First one is the prediction of stock price using social media or the news articles, financial news articles. And the second theme is the portfolio optimization using data mining approaches like reinforcement learning, association rule mining, decision tree, etc. And the third theme is portfolio optimization using heuristics like ant colony optimization, particle swarm optimization, genetic algorithm, etc. And the fourth theme, we have specifically said that people have used only the quantitative data for portfolio portfolio optimization. Here the quantitative data means the financial ratio which has been used for the company analysis, but the qualitative portion for the company analysis has been completely ignored. So this sums up the gap we have identified based on the previous work. So no framework handles both structured and unstructured data for portfolio optimization. Here the structured data means the ratio and the unstructured data means the qualitative data, which includes the management, change of management, the management decision, the current scenario of the company which has or on the whole company itself. So based on the gaps identified, we have arrived at the following objective. Our objective is to propose a framework that considers both stock price and current affairs data, that is the news article and market sentiment, to help investors to make an informed investment decision. And in order to achieve our objective, we have proposed a framework which consists of 5-stage process. The stage 1 deals with the selection of stock, followed by the validation of the stock, and the third stage is stock clustering, followed by stock ranking and optimization. The abstract framework is shown in this figure. These two blocks tells about the first stage, which is carried out using the data envelopment analysis. This relates to the stock selection, and these 3 blocks refers to the second stage, which is the validation of stock, which is actually complementing the previous stage. And here we are obtaining the tweets and the news articles, and we are collating the current information of the company and processing it using big data technology like Hadoop MapReduce, and we obtain the validated efficient firms. And this is our third step, in which the validated firms are clustered into different clusters, followed by ranking the stocks within the cluster, and the final step is the optimization, where we provide the investors with the top 3 suggestion of portfolio. I'll explain each stage in detail in the following slides. The first stage is the selection of stock. It is achieved using data envelopment analysis. DA is a non-parametric linear programming that calculates the efficiency score of decision making units based on set of input parameters and output parameters. And the DMUs with score of 1 is considered to be efficient. And DA has been applied in various disciplines, from manufacturing to service sector, and now it is also being applied for stock selection. And here we consider the listed firms in a particular stock exchange as our DMU, and the input parameters and output parameters for DA are total asset, total equity, total cost of sales and operating expenses. The output is net sales and net income, and the output of this particular stage would be the efficient firms, which means that stock with a score of 1 is considered to be efficient, and the remaining firms are discarded. And the stage 2 is the validation of stock. This stage complements the first stage. Here we are actually using the qualitative data of those efficient firms from the previous step. So here, so how do we obtain the qualitative data? We'll use the technique of text mining, and we have so much of unstructured data and it takes so much time to process, so we are adopting distributed text mining, and it can be carried out using Hadoop MapReduce. And the properties of Hadoop MapReduce which support distributed text mining is the ease of use, scalability and failover property. Explains the Hadoop framework for distributed text mining. C1 news article refers to the news article related to the company 1, and C2 tweets refers to the tweets of the company 2. In similar way, the news article and tweets of particular company is retrieved, and we all know that the tweets can be retrieved from Twitter API, and the only limitation with Twitter API is that we can retrieve only 1500 tweets per request, and the data is processed through map processor, and from which we derive the partial result, and the partial results can be combined to an aggregated result using the reduced. At the end of stage 2, we have sample size which has been reduced from our initial sample size. For example, if we consider like number of listed stock in a particular stock exchange to be 1000, probably at the end of stage 1 we have 500 firms which are efficient, and at the end of stage 2, probably out of those 500 firms, 300 might be validated. The stage 3 deals with the stock clustering, in which we take the validated firms from the previous stage. Here we calculate the correlation coefficient of returns of the stock, and we can use clustering algorithms like k-means clustering and Lowian clustering. The objective of the number and the quality of clusters is to maximize the similarity within a cluster and to minimize the similarity between the clusters. And the output would be the output firms can be similar in their business activity or business life. And this is our fourth step, which deals with the stock ranking. We all know that we need to select the appropriate stock from each cluster. So in order to select them, we have to rank those stocks within each cluster, and this can be carried out using artificial neural network, which consists of 3 layers: input layer, hidden layer and output layer. And the input parameters for ANN could be GDP growth rate and interest rate, and the output parameter could be future return of investment. And the output of the previous stage is like the ranked stocks within each cluster. Now we arrive at the final stage, which is the optimization of the whole scenario. We all know like general opinion of the investor is to select the top stocks from each cluster, but it need not be the case. And even if we know like those are the stocks we are going to select, but we need to know how much to be invested in those stocks. So we can use optimization heuristics like particle swarm optimization or ant colony optimization, and we can get output as top 3 portfolio. And the expected outcomes of the framework are at first stage we get these assets which are to be selected, and since the stage 2 considers the qualitative data, it validates the firms which are selected from the first stage. And the stage 3, which is related to the stock clustering, increases the diversification of risk. And the stage 4, which is the stock ranking, aids in the selection of appropriate stock. And the stage 5 gives us the top 3 suggestion to the investor. He can invest in one of those 3 suggestions. And this is my concluding slide. The advantage of this framework is it provides the informed decision making to both naive investors and well-informed investors. It considers both structured data and unstructured data. It gives flexibility to the investors for selecting the appropriate stock. The flexibility is because we are giving the top 3 suggestion, and this framework can be applied to any stock data: New York Stock Exchange, National Stock Exchange or Bombay Stock Exchange. The limitation of this framework is that it is considering only the stock analysis. The future work could be related to combining other assets with the same thing, and here the asset management is not considered, whether he should rebalance at the end of particular month or things like that. And the future work for us is to implement the framework, and these are the